Welcome,
Go ahead.
everybody.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us on your Wednesday evening. My name is Sia Pineschi. I am a curator with MoCDA, and I am here with Chiara Braidotti, who is also a curator with MoCDA. And we are here to speak with some of the artists in a show that we've recently curated called Not Only RGB, which is an exploration of translating color to the digital world, which is available now on Decentraland until the end of January. So, to begin with, we wanted to offer some heartfelt thanks to those who have helped us get the exhibition up and running, especially to Decentraland DAO, who has been helping us along the way. And so the artists we are going to be speaking with today are 38 per Mille, which is a duo of Italian artists, Mattia Cuttini and Luca Donno, who are here with us, who have just joined us on the screen.
Hello.
Guys.
Hi.
Hi, guys.
As a bit of a explanation and an introduction to these two artists, Cuttini is a crypto art OG whose interdisciplinary practice combines printmaking, graphic design, blockchain technology, and AI. Donno is a generative and minimalist artist with a background in computer science. As a duo, they embrace nature's laws as well as its randomness, exploring the chromatic and geometric spectrum through the generative processes. So their individual works have been exhibited in Los Angeles, Milan, New York, Paris, Turin, and across major crypto art galleries and the metaverse. So we're very excited to have you both here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And at Not Only RGB, the show you're peeking at through the screen, they presented Color Seeds, their second project released as 38 per Mille, which they actually created in response to the exhibition theme. So the series is an ongoing exploration of the relationship between symmetry and randomness, and between subtractive and additive color synthesis, blank voids and overlapping refractions. Almost as if we were looking through a prism, their work transposes fractals and hues found in nature into the digital realm, playing between geometric and chromatic balance and chaos. As you can see, we are looking at the works as they have been staged in the exhibition. And Mattia, Luca, first of all, is there anything you would like to add to our brief introduction?
I don't know. We are really pleased to be here, both of us. And yeah, the more I look at the artworks, the more I think that we have to mint them somewhere, I suppose. I don't know if Luca agrees with me.
Yes. Yeah, it's still an unfinished artwork. We still have some ideas how to iterate these in more forms. But yeah, we definitely have to mint it somewhere.
Yeah, it's the seed of seeds, I suppose. So yeah, I think that is still going on from the artwork that you see in the bottom left. That is from 2015. We have like extrapolated some rules to be broken after all with the code of Luca. I don't know if Luca want to add some more.
Yeah, we started from this artwork, Hexacolor, which Mattia had this beautiful intuition about a way to show colors, the color wheel in this geometric form, because there is a connection between the formulas that you see when you have to mix colors and fractals. So yeah, when you mix colors 2 by 2, as you say here, you can create like this fractal when you can show all the colors of the color wheel. And we started from there, and we like iterated this idea using a generative artwork. So we have like a lot of parameters that are built into the artwork, and using a generative process, we tweaked these parameters to create something that feels also organic, using randomness, because we are also inspired by nature, because nature naturally evolves into geometric forms, but this is done by random mutations. So it's natural to see in nature some geometric balance along with some randomness, and
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what we did here with this artwork.
And it's interesting because similar to the color cuts, the other project that we have, we use the same materials. So we use the same approach with colors, with some the colors the overlapping or not. All these parameters can be generated from in the future when we mint it from the hash of the transaction that will be create this
Yeah, in
this
fact,
artwork.
I think you anticipated one or two of our questions already. In a sense
But
that we are.
You can do anyway the
Yes.
questions, and we can.
No, of course. But I mean,
expand.
we are actually looking at the way we also decided to present the works in the exhibition. And as you mentioned, there is on bottom left Hexacolor, previous work by you, Mattia. And then first, I believe it was the 38th iteration of this first proof of work selection that you made and you presented to us. And we actually made this choice of showing, of providing the public with a bit of the evolution of this series. So how it, what was its origin, its like starting point back with this piece of yours, Mattia, and then something more structured in which we can still see some of the rules that are at play in the actual series, which is the three works on the top row, and then just a very just three pieces out of the 100 that you presented to us when looking at this first iteration.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So yeah, well,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's interesting how we work, because here we can see the artworks presented in this way, and they're like a good way actually to show how we work, how me and Luca are working. And this is the first time something like this, and it's always interesting for an artist to be curated from someone else, because you always understand better what you are doing. I don't know if this makes sense for you. It's like a loop. And we chat a lot, we write a lot, but when we have to write the code, we connect together with our computers and we tweak the code together, and we find out if there are better ways and solutions together. And this is pretty interesting. I don't know how other artists work, but we are actually doing live this thing.
Very well. Yeah.
And it works amazing. Is for me, it's also interesting because I always work by myself. Also, Luca works by himself, I suppose. But yeah, this relationship works.
Yeah, and I believe there is a sense of performance in the works as well. Like you can kind of catch some performativity, especially in the top row. The fact that there is more than one tension at play in them.
And I think it's also quite interesting you mentioning, like, obviously this is a work that comes from a duo, from a combination of people. And so maybe it would be interesting for you guys to explain a little bit more about how you guys met and how you decided to collaborate, and even what you feel like the other person brings to the collaboration that feels complementary in the production of works like this and your previous works.
Luca, it's your turn.
Luca starts first.
Yeah, I started in crypto art in 2019.
Freezed.
Yeah, I believe he
Oops.
froze.
He's going back to 2019.
It's freezed in 2019. You are unfreezed.
Okay,
Bye.
you're back.
Okay, I'm back. I was saying I started in 2019, and Mattia initially told me everything about crypto art. So we met there. I was already doing some artworks myself that I was posting on Instagram, and I showed him some of them, and he told me, like, you should definitely mint some of them. So yeah, we started like this, and yeah, he was seeing my artworks. I was looking at what Mattia was doing, and like we felt this connection because I was doing like generative artworks with code, and I felt like Mattia was doing like generative artworks by hand. So I feel like we can combine our our powers to build something together, and we did initially. And after many iteration, many artworks, we felt like that we need a duo name to be like an identity to
The band name.
the band name. Exactly.
Nirvana was taken, so had to come up with something else. Yeah.
Just explain the name.
Yeah, 38
Yeah, if
per
you can tell us something about that too.
Yeah, 38 per mille is the salinity. It's salinity. Is it English? Saltiness.
Yeah.
Salinity of the Adriatic Sea, which is the sea that sits very close to us. Yeah, so we choose this name also, because numbers, proportions. I feel like it's something that connects us. So
In connection with nature, and the logotype is made with the colors that are overlapped, like we are used to work in our
Yes.
in our journey. So yeah, we find out pretty easily also the name. Yeah, this is a proof that I'm doing the artworks by hand.
Hand.
This is from 2013, I suppose, because
yeah.
and then
Yeah,
2
so
years to create in the digital.
So this is a motif that you've been thinking about for a very long time then. Like how have you seen that it's changed over time from 2013, from the original hand-drawn?
Yeah, now I have more density in the workbook. Yeah, when I started even before, I was doing art during the free time, so there was small time to do that. Now that I am doing 24 hours per day is pretty dense. But yeah, but this kind of connections at a certain point are automatical. If I think of what colors I have to do with Luca for next time, I will always think about this overlapping, and we start simple, and then we start to explode and go ahead. And always I write down some general rules that Luca creates, and at a certain point Luca tells me, no, I can't touch this, it's already a work of art. the explanation of coordinates. So go ahead, what's the problem? We have to break the rules, and this is also interesting. I create the rules, Luca broke the rules, then we come back, we have a feedback like it is in electronics. There's the feedback loop that controls the how can I say, the parameters. When you have to hit something, there always a feedback that something have to be hidden, not too much, because the system can degenerate and can destroy himself. And it was pretty well. It's like having a proper band when one sings and one plays the guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, and in fact, well, you come from the music. You have sort of a music background yourself, and you worked with samples in many ways throughout your practice. But I think, yeah, exactly. The dialogue is very apparent, and you can see that there are some, of course, differences between your individual practices. But you both have this fascination for algorithms, I believe, digital ones or analog ones. But you have this trait in common, and we were wondering also, like, what challenges and opportunities this combination of your individual paths represents in your artistic production as a duo. Like, if there is something else that you can think of, like something that it's actually maybe a bit difficult for you to understand or to manage.
No, it was difficult to manage actually the COVID split, because when we met, yeah, because when we met, it was always a thing. Oh, are you available? No, I'm there. No, I'm better. So it was always complicated. Now it's a little bit better, even if the guy here got to finish the university, but yeah, we finish at a certain point.
Yeah.
I don't know if Luca, you want to talk about our next,
Yeah.
what we want to do about this, and also about the future without spoiling too much.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I noticed that between us, I'm usually the one which is a bit more geometric, a bit more precise mathematically. In fact, I initially what I did with this artwork, it was to replicate with code the initial idea of Hexacolor, and then when I had the perfect code, the exact replica of Hexacolor, I started tweaking the params. And initially, what I was looking for was some other geometric balance, some other possibilities to have geometric balance like Hexacolor. In fact, you see in the bottom right artwork, it's somewhat balanced. The fractal is symmetrical and balanced, and I found a lot of other symmetries that are not shown here, but I have like 20 of them. But Mattia told me like, oh no, geometric perfection is boring. Let's yeah, so make some explosions, make some randomness, put some randomness in them, and like he was right. So I really like the
but
what
anyhow, with randomness you have to convey the randomness, because when you put randomness, if there is too much randomness, then something happens that breaks up the code, and also it's a problem for the machine, because we have also to deal with the CPUs. At a certain point, Luca told me, no, we have to stop the iteration because I will cook the computer if I go ahead.
Yes.
So there are also this kind of limitations, and for me having on the other side someone that's really prepared in this way, for me is super, because I can go ahead, but then at a certain point look at us, we cannot do this, or we have got the issue of the borders, because initially there was like triangles, and then there was so broken up, and maybe we will create something else from that broken code, who knows. And anyhow, we have a question from the public. Here it is.
Yep.
From our friend Token Angels.
Yeah. So please say virtues and vices, if any, of the other artists that you discovered working together. Oh, the other artists. Pardon my pronunciation.
In Italiano.
Matteo for Luca.
Luca, what are... no, Luca, you tell mine, and then I tell yours.
It's a tricky question. Thank you, Token Angels. Very spicy one.
Yeah. Okay, I can start with this.
Well, virtues as well, not just vices.
Well. Yeah. The virtue is that Mattia has a lot of crazy ideas, and I think that's very positive because he's a very creative person. And yeah, there's a lot that come out from his mind, but I think that's also a vice somehow, because like he said, sometimes like he has some crazy requests. Like I try to to follow him, but there's an asymmetry between what is visually simple, what when a thought is very simple to to do by hand, but with code it can be very complex, because it's very different with code. I can only use geometric functions, mathematical functions. So yeah, there is this asymmetry, but it's also very fun because I push my boundaries. So yeah.
Okay, the virtue of Luca, that is a real straight guy, even in art and even with his body, with his mind. He does a lot of gym, and he plays soccer, and he's good with mathematics. And so it's super straight for me. And the only vice that I found out, but that lately is broken, it was really, really shy at the beginning. And I wasn't sure if I was bothering him or not. So yeah, that's it.
So you're a bit strict, Luca, very precise, and you're a bit chaotic, Mattia.
Yeah, no, also Luca is chaotic, but we will reveal
Okay.
in private conversation with token angels when we meet him or
Right.
her.
Well,
That does sound like it complements very well, to be fair.
yeah. And regarding, I mean, order and chaos, also like looking at the pieces that we selected, maybe we can pause on this one, which is number 46. And we can see that although the chromatic, well, now we are on number 55, but basically we decided to display three pieces that were kind of I don't know, good examples of what direction the series could get. So this one we're looking at now. No, okay. I think that this loop is not helping us, but basically 46, the one that we're looking at now with this green and also purple and red. Purple bluish, like this randomly generated sort of a balanced composition with this almost perfect triangle in the center. Whereas if we go ahead with number 55, this one we have a more chromatic freedom, and also like an arrangement which does not resemble the hexagon from which we started. And if we go ahead with the next image, yes, this 181 almost seems like a box which has been slightly opened, and something else in terms of symmetry is happening now. We can almost see the hexagon again. So we found it interesting to show somewhat the extremes or some interesting ways to play about between balance and chaos through these three examples. But like we were wondering how does these elements, the interplay between these elements, these opposites, work out in your individual practice. If there is anything you want to tell us about these tensions, or the importance, as you mentioned, of having including errors or bugs into your practice.
Oh, I start. In my practice, as you know, Chiara, the error is really important.
Is key, yeah.
I mean that the error is not happens every time when I do a proper exploration of a new way to create, but happens. And when it happens, I search out for the reason for this error. And at a certain point, if I search out properly, this error comes out and creates another way of doing new artworks. Like the perfect example is in my rubber stamps that I've used the wrong kind of rubber with the wrong kind of ink, and there's always a little bit of ink that rests in the surface of the stamp, and this allows me to create the shades of the color. This is one example for everything. But we have found, for example, in color cuts, that if we do wrong inputs of variables, it creates something strange because the code cannot allow us, and maybe this is another thing that we will do in the future. Luca, do you remember the last color cast that you showed me?
Yes.
For the people who might not know, you're referring to color cuts. So the first project that you created and released as Duo. Well, if you want to tell us something about that too, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. What he was referring to is that with that artwork we had many polygons, and we had like pentagons, squares, and triangles, and so on. And at some point, like I had a bit of code, a function that could like build these polygons given the number of sides that I wanted. So like we were experimenting with it, and I wanted to see what would have happened if I put polygons with two sides.
Impossible polygons.
There are no polygons with two sides, but it was something like really incredible that we didn't share yet. But like I usually, like as I said before, I usually start with something which resembles perfectly some figure, some geometric shape, or some mathematical function, and then I start to play with it a bit randomly. I start to tweak params. I start to change formulas, and what's the best part is that the difference between what I do at university or what I do like with projects, programming projects, it's that when you don't have a clear objective, you don't really have bugs, because you have something in mind, but then when some bug comes out, it's not really a bug, because you don't have to do like anything perfect if you're looking for something while you're coding. So I think bugs are awesome when I find them, because by definition it's something that you can not have thought about initially. So they are very creative, and I look after them a lot when I do my artworks.
Yeah, so I have contaminated your practice, my friend.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is something that we... Oh, sorry, Chiara, go for it.
Yeah, no. Go ahead.
I think this is something that we were very drawn to when you presented Color Seeds for this exhibition. And the idea of translating color to a digital format is something that requires a lot of exploration, and it requires a lot of experimentation and investigation, and the ways that these colors present with each other on screen gives them a very they invoke different emotions and different patterns and all sorts of, academic investigation. So it would be interesting to know what you're with color seeds. Are you intending to evoke a specific emotional reaction? Is this purely an academic investigation into color? Like what kind of, if we were audience members looking at this work, like what questions do you hope we come away with?
I suppose that we will tweak more the code to have even more variables. But yeah, actually, for me, these are flowers. And like in flowers in nature, that everything is similar but also different. I don't know how to explain better, but happens also with this series. From the perfection of or relative perfection of the demo, and then the recoding of Luca, and then after all the explosions of colors and figures, you can see a lot of things that happens in nature, that happens with colors when you mix up pigments. So yeah, for me, in my opinion, I don't have to explain people what they are seeing. But yeah, that's it for me. Is nature, is pigments, is color, and all these things together. And at a certain point happens that in this randomness, certain artworks are evoking to you more intentions and more feelings than others. Luca, I don't know if you want to add something more useful than my blah blah blah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the balance between geometry and chaos. That's, you can see like in this one the struggles, like similar, like a struggle between looking for a perfection, a form, and chaos that you can also find in nature a lot of times. So yeah, I think that's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is this, let's say, probably sensation of being transposed somewhere else to some extent. I mean, you can use them as lenses to imagine like an elsewhere. As you can go into the infinitely small in them. So there is this tension, like the works draw people into them to see how far they can almost pierce the work.
And yeah, maybe it can be also interesting, maybe in the future when we release it, to zoom it inside, because the triangles are really tiny, but also really complex to see. And the more you go inside, the more you see, like in a fractal, what's inside. So it's like the word replicating the word inside of a word.
Yeah, that's a beautiful image. And that's also like our curiosity, knowing as you presented it to us that this is a work in progress, what direction you wish to take. So a change in scale, maybe. Do you want to show, like to share something more with us about the direction of this exploration?
It's your turn.
Yeah, I personally want to explore texture.
Okay.
So yeah, it's something that I did not play much with, but I think it could be very interesting to see, to have some textures to these shapes, and to see how they can overlap in new textures and stuff like that. Yeah.
But procedure. How can you
Yes,
say
procedural textures.
procedural text? Okay,
Yes,
now
of
I
course.
got you. And also we can have a more deformation of this pair of triangles. Maybe it can be interesting to play, because yeah, I am the chaotic one. I want to see more chaos, and I also want to see this stuff go outside of the box.
Yeah.
Physically, like
Yeah. The problem with that is, as you can see here, the fractals goes, they become smaller and smaller. The problem is that if you go outside they go bigger and bigger. So yeah, we have to play with it a bit.
I do think it's very interesting you mentioned texture and procedural texture. Is that the
Yes.
okay.
I don't know how.
It would be interesting to know a little bit more about how you define procedural texture, but I also
Go
think it's
ahead.
very interesting the fact that you mentioned this is something that you want to play with, but I do see that there are almost initial elements and initial thoughts of this in color seeds. For if we're looking at the next one, any of the series on the top in the installation, so these ones, you do see that the interplay between the fragments kind of shattered from the larger shapes and the featheriness of this shape in particular is that's starting to decentralize and start to expand out. The texture seems to be all about the interaction between different shapes and the ways that you could theoretically use it as a in the sense of touch, but like this does have a textural element to it. It feels sharp, it feels, jagged,
Yes.
it feels all of these things. So it is quite interesting to see. So also procedural texture, if you could expand on that a little bit, that would be really interesting.
Yeah, for now, as of now, the shapes are just, shape filled with solid colors. But like you could fill with other ways. You could fill by using circles, or you could have like lines that goes through from a side to another side. You could have different strokes weights. You could have shades. You could have noise, Berlin noise on the filling the shapes.
I see.
There
So
are a
coming
lot
in
of different noises with
visual
Maybe-
aspects you can kind of manipulate to replicate texture. Okay.
While he's talking, I'm imagining like having two or more of this texture together.
Yes.
Because at a certain point, when you have, for example, shades and lines together, you can replicate the texture of the wood, the texture of the leaves, and something like this. And this maybe can enhance the organic feeling of these materials.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And also a very apparent element in your works as a duo especially is the chromatic aspect of it, which of course is in continuity as with the work that we're looking at right now. Your hexacolor, Mattia, it's in continuity with past production of you both, but also somehow like it breaks from some of the elements, because in your production, Mattia, along with especially cyan, yellow, carmine, and
I use not a lot of colors.
yes,
I use
basically dichromatic, like black and white, or maybe red, some splashes of red. And for you, Luca, there's more earthly tones, or black and white again. So it's interesting to see how this, like the combination of your practices gives also like space to really vibrant chromatic exploration as well. And I don't know if you will be introducing black again in your works, or
I don't see the need to use less color when we were together, just because we were together, and seems pretty.
How did it
correct.
happen though? Coming
I
from
don't
this
know.
quite restrained path of yours.
I cannot remember when we decided to. But it's like, okay, we play together and we use colors. Like it was something that we was like, I don't know. I am always worried to use a lot of colors, and maybe also Luca is worried, but together we can. It's like having this power because we are together. Yeah,
Give each other permission, almost, of like, yeah, go crazy,
okay.
go nuts, revert you, like, yeah.
Yes.
That's cool.
I think one thing that I was quite curious about was it would be interesting to know, as part of Color Seeds, what is something that was an entirely new investigation for you in this series? I know this is a work that we spoke about for the Not Only RGB exhibition. So, I mean, I'm sure that informed the origin of the work, but it would be good to know if there was something in your technique, in your practice, that this felt like it was a novel exploration for you guys.
Luca.
Yes. One thing for me was colors, actually. Yeah, we played around with colors before, but like in this series we have to mix colors together, so we don't just have, you know, RGB or CYM. Yeah, so like the problem was to find some balance when choosing colors, because also color palettes are generated generatively. So initially we were playing around with pre-selected colors, but then we started to create them randomly, and we were not very comfortable with that. So I had to create a piece of code that generates triples of colors that are well balanced together using some formulas. So yeah, I had to play around with it quite a bit to find like chromatic balance with randomly generated colors. Yeah, so that's, the colors are not random. They're very
the triples of the triplete. How do you say in English? The triplets of colors are randomly generated, but when you generate one, you always generate the other two.
Yes.
So yeah, there are rules in randomness, and the thing that I was worrying me at the start of the project was transferring to look about this artwork that we are seeing now, but without telling him too much, because I was aware that if I was telling him too much, he was replicating it, and this is the only concerning for me, because the artworks are like I have imagined at the start.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys, the fact that you've mentioned early on in this talk about viewing these triplets almost as flowers does make a lot of sense in that context, because imagine you have a set of flowers, it's got a certain color set that it kind of naturalistically migrates to or evolves to. But even within that color set, you can have gradients, you can have iterations, you can have slight differences based on sun, based on randomness, soil composition, all of these things. And it doesn't mean that the rose is any less a rose because it's slightly more pink, but like it does mean that it's still within that broader category, even though the color it presents is random. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Bye.
No, go ahead.
No, I was only underlining what Sia was saying. Yeah, for me, it's strange because all these artworks are the artwork. So even if the colors are different, even if the explosion is more evident or less evident, it's always the same artwork. I don't know if it's possible to understand this. There are different variations of the same code, that maybe the code is the artwork at a certain point.
Yeah, I think that's a very core idea in what I do in my artworks, that with code you can define like what's essential. Like I always give this example, like if I have a house in mind, like the concept of a house, it's not like you have to specify the number of walls or the size of the windows, the shape of the, of the door. You have some constraints, like you need to have at least 3 walls, at least a door, maybe a window, maybe a roof. But like what it's not needed in the, there are some stuff that you can generate automatically, and that's what we do. What can we do with code is, like, you give the constraint of what you want and leave the rest to the computer. Yes.
I like this house thing.
I
I will
know.
reuse it.
I also want to see a house with 3 walls and no roof. That's the next artistic project.
A box without.
Yeah, in a physical artwork, a physical artwork often sums up many passages and processes into one object, whereas with generative art, one finds almost the reverse magic, basically, that from a few strings of code and variables, a multitude can be created. That's also.
Yeah, because with multiple artworks, you can understand what the author, what the artist wanted to, to be present in those artworks, what was hard coded, we say, and what what is left to the computer to generate. And if you like only create one artwork, like my first artworks were like this. So I had this code that could generate like thousands of possibilities, but I only like choose 1 or 2 to mint. But then you can't see like really what I had in mind, because you could say that something was intended while it was left to the computer. But in this way, with generative artworks, you can really see what are the core ideas and what is left to the computer. Yes.
Yeah, I love this kind of explanation about Luca artwork, because then you started in 2019, and then two years after, Art Blocks was burned, and everything has got this meaning at a certain point. Because generative artworks, you can only have to choose how much of them do you want, but you can do infinite number of these artworks. So yeah.
I mean, I think it would be interesting to know as well, because Luca, it seems like you're very familiar with digital art and the digital art scene and all of this. And Mattia, it sounds like you come from a very traditional art background in the form of physical manipulations of paint, that kind of thing. Mattia, it would be really interesting to know how you've felt that digital art either accurately captures or inaccurately captures digital physical art. That would be something that would be quite interesting to know, especially seeing as you work now quite a bit.
Yeah,
with digital.
for me, is always having a complicated relationship with machines, even if
Sounds
they
like an
are
artist.
physical, or even if it's the computer or the AI. For me, is always the same. Try to trick the machine, or to trick the AI, or to trick the algorithm. So for me, is having a pencil or having the computer, for me is basically the same, but it's a process. Only in these last years I have understood that for me is the same. In the past, I always thought, like having in drawers, okay, now I do the digital, now I do the physical, now I do, but it's not this way. The thing is that you have to convey your ideas and your feelings inside of your artwork, and then use the proper tool to convey this. And now I am doing the physical that serves as a tool to create the digital artwork, and creates this kind of confusion between the two worlds. And I love it too much because I create problems with myself, and I also create problems with the people that are looking at. And we are in the middle of a transformation of humans, that we are talking about the metaverse and talking about digital transformation. And I, as an artist, I have to enhance, to explain these things, even with my art. So I love create physical things because I can detach myself from the computer. But I also love to create physical artworks that can help me to have digital material to be post-produced after a couple of weeks or a couple of months, so I can have these bubbles of work, so I can also detach and reattach and do the social media, do the bills, and do all the digital things. So it's like having a small how can I say, a small algorithm in this case, also to create my art.
I like the idea of using the human as the algorithm, right? A bunch of very random inputs.
Yeah, and this is the thing that saves my life, because I always say that I am the employee of myself, because I work always like having in a fabric, in a company to start work at the same. Yeah, in a factory, sorry, going to work and then go back to lunch and then go to work again, because if I go mad, then something mad happens and is not correct in my life. Luca?
Yeah, I'm a digital native. I played around with computers since I was very little. I study computer science since forever. So yeah, I actually have I want to play a bit with something physical at some point. I think Mattia told me like a lot of ideas to create physical generative artworks with some constructions, some electronics. But
with plotters and
yes,
the carving paper. He has got a paper cutter, automatic.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Put the code inside of the thing.
Yes. Yes.
And that's using the computer as a tool for the physical, which feels like a good reversal of.
Yes.
Exactly.
But I think we have to physically meet to experiment with this stuff at some point.
Right, because you have met, but after creating your work, not during the creative process.
But we are Italians, and when we met, we go out to drink and to.
Yeah, of course.
What we have done together? Have you ever eaten a lot of pizza? A lot of. We was in Milan. We was eating always in a different parts of Milan, and then eating something different in every part. Yeah, this is what Italians do. Go out and eat.
Yeah. Well, we have a limited time. We're almost our hour is almost up. So actually, if we do happen to meet for creative processes only, well, or mostly, what do you intend to do? Are you working on something right now?
Luca first, and then I complete.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we have like a lot of ideas actually. He invited me to go to Udine to play around with some physical stuff, with some scanners, with some Arduinos. Yeah, I think that it has to happen.
Yeah, and also I also invited him in my place because I know now with the gym and so on is so powerful, and I want that he tries to go with another collaborator, Irene, that does circus things. So yeah, we can open another lock of creativity, because at a certain point when you also use your body to do things, something strange happens also with the digital things. I don't know if it makes sense, but at a certain point when I think about music, about digital art, about physical things, for me now there is no difference, because now I can convey everything inside of the NFTs. And I was also that Luca experiments this thing with Circus, because now it's got the perfect body to bring people. Yeah.
It's an interesting perspective, a very performative one. So we're curious to see what comes out of it.
Me too.
Well, I think we're coming near to the end of our time, so it would be good to know if you guys have anything else that you wanted to bring up or to explain a little bit. Otherwise, we can say our goodbyes. But
I think that we can like ask to the people that is looking at us if we want this project in FX Hash or in art blocks, because I cannot understand what we have to do with this.
So
if you know anything about it, contact them and let them know. Tell us.
The help of the audience.
There's no fraud. If you are online, tell us if we have to mint them in art blocks, like an open call.
Open call. I think you guys are on Twitter, right? So this could be very easy to find you guys.
Help us, please.
But yeah, I mean, this has been an absolutely lovely conversation, and it's been really wonderful to really dive deeply into your process and your partnership and the motivations behind the work and where you guys are going next. So thank you so much for joining us. And for everyone out there, we do have another artist talk next week on the 30th, November 30th, which is with Mathieu Merlet Briand, who is the one who did Purple Mineral, which is actually right next to you guys in the exhibition, so we can just move a little bit to
when
the
you
right.
go inside of that virtual room, it always shocks me because it's virtual, but yeah, come on, it's super crazy, it's super big.
Yeah, no, it's been such an incredible process to work with like everyone to get this installed, and the physical digital sculptures in addition to like expanded artworks has been quite a challenge, but it's been really rewarding.
Yeah, and thank you so much for being here, and also for like participating in the exhibition, obviously, and sharing your works and your words, your intuitions with us tonight.
Grazie.
It was an absolute pleasure.
Ciao, ciao.
Cool.